Football with friends is fun as hell. My name is Alex Dunlap here with Cody Carpentier live from somewhere in California with the beach behind him on a big Victory Tuesday. Glad to have Cody back. Glad to have all you guys in the chat. Glad to have some news so that we can share with you here today. Some recruiting stuff with the Texas Longhorns. Cody has some news from behind enemy lines, Georgia, Oklahoma. We still have some of this defensive stuff to get to. I'm about maybe halfway through the offense, so I have some thoughts on how Texas looked versus Mississippi State and how we can spin that moving forward. I think just from the very start, though, Cody, big weekend of visitors coming in. Jason had a column with his list up of all of these guys. I noticed that my favorite 2026 running back is going to be in town. Javion, what's his last name? Javion
Osborne.
Javion Osborne.
Yeah.
But I think that the big news as far as the visitors this weekend. So Michael Terry is going to be here this weekend, not in an official visit capacity. Some big official visitors that we can talk about, but on an unofficial, Michael Terry is going to be here. And amidst all this, Jason just goes ham at the end of his column today, if it's 3-2-1, with his one prediction, and goes out, Mr. Tap the brakes.
Literally
says he thinks that Texas is going to flip Dalen McCutcheon. Your thoughts?
I mean, we know how sick Dalen McCutcheon is. So this is a guy that we've talked about. I know you always bring up the Jackson Smith and Jigba thing. You see that. I mean, I know the school colors are kind of similar to Ohio State and the numbers similar to Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I believe that that's a very reputable comp at this stage. Like, it's one of the few guys that I did go see. One of the group of guys I did go see at the Rivals 5-Star in Jacksonville. And he's one that, well, he didn't jump off the screen or jump off the field, I guess you'd say, as much as a Jamie French did. When I remember coming back thinking, golly, Jamie French can play football like today. Like, and now, like, after the last weekend, seeing like Ryan Williams and seeing all these guys, these freshmen dominate, like, in my brain, I'm like, I know this guy can play football. Like, I know what this looks like. And Dalen McCutcheon wasn't far behind that day. I know there's a couple other names out there that I could drop that look good that day. French was up here. McCutcheon was in that second tier, and his is more of like that twitchy route runner. And I really just think it's interesting because people, I've seen comments across the board. This isn't the first time Jason brought up Dalen McCutcheon, recent post his commitment to Florida State a couple months ago, right? People are like, well, is he a take because of, French is there, Lockett's there, they're working on Terry. I know at one point Jason was talking about potentially Texas flipping Kelshawn Johnson from Texas A&M. It's like,
he's going to be in town this weekend, right? I think Kelshawn's going to be in. Going to be in. I'm not sure. Let me check on that if he's on the list.
Yes, he is. He is going to be in.
Okay.
This is for the Georgia game, not this weekend, Georgia. So that's
Georgia.
Yeah. Sorry. But the point more so to me is when you look at these receivers and you look at this core and you go, all right, X, Y, Z, right? Outside slot. And when I see Dalen McCutcheon, and I think he's like right at 6 or maybe 5'11", and he's like that 185. He's like that perfect, I call it the archetype when we're talking about the NFL. In the NFL terms, the archetype for me is like that 6 foot, 5'11", 6 foot, 190 to 205 pounds, right in that range. That Odell Beckham, Neighbors is there. All these good, all these guys are in this range. And Dalen McCutcheon kind of fits that, where I think he almost from a person standpoint, from a player standpoint, and from an ability standpoint, like, it feels like, and I know Jordan Whittington was a high-end recruit, DeAndre Moore was a high-end recruit, McCutcheon's a high-end recruit, and like that trajectory is kind of where I see McCutcheon, and that's kind of where I've always seen him, especially since that Rivals 5-Star event, was like, this guy would be perfect in that role, and it'd be even more dynamic than what we saw in spurts out of Jordan Whittington in big games, what we've seen now at a DeAndre Moore this past week, and like just continuing to build on that. That's where I always saw McCutcheon. And when you talk about this receiving core in this class, French, Lockett, McCutcheon, like, oh man, I mean, that the more DK Moore, like DeCorian Moore, like, oh yeah, that would have been great to have all three of those guys, but there's a bit of redundancy there in where these guys play. Where you bring in McCutcheon into that third receiver in this conversation, I don't think there's redundancy in how all three of these guys play football.
Who's the X and who's the flanker? If you like, let's say Texas were to get those three, we know
French is your X, and then and I think Lockett. I mean,
do you think French is? Do you think French plays bigger than Lockett?
No, but I think Lockett's faster. I think French has more body control. I think Lockett, and that doesn't say Lockett doesn't, but I think Lockett has better speed, long speed, and I think I want more speed out of my flanker. It's kind of how I view that.
I think that both of them can. I think it's just like Bond. It's like
Interchangeable,
Bond, like
yeah.
he's the X, but he plays like they play him. You know, they play these guys in a lot of different spots. You know, if they're outside guys, they're outside guys. The one, you know, there are guys who just only play slot, right? Like DeAndre Moore's always only in the slot, right? And Ryan Wingo is always, so far this season, always at the X. But other than that, they move these dudes. Jonte plays all the spots. Bond plays all the spots. Golden plays all the spots. There isn't. I'm not sure it's really built into the fabric of the offense to have these guys specialize. Even though during the portions they opened up to us at practice. And look, Alan McCade is saying possessionless football, guys. Like, who cares who the starter is? Like, I understand.
Bingo.
Alan. And look, the reason why I think about these things is I like to think about players' attributes and how their attributes can fit into certain things. And like, obviously you're going to prefer them at one or the other, right? But I think it is something that's built into the offense to where you can move them around and stuff like that. And if an opportunity presents itself to where you're like, oh, well, dude, this week we're actually facing one of these some kind of old school like LaMarcus Joyner sort of nickel corner and stuff like that, where we're going to need to get a two-way go on this guy. Like, I think that's the kind of time where you're like, all right, well, move Bond into the slot or just stuff like this. So yeah, I don't think with French and Lockett it would matter as much. And I think with McCutcheon, he comes in like the quest. I mean, he's just he's a slot machine, dude. He's a really good player. And for Jason to kind of go out on a limb and say he thinks this dude's going to flip. But dude, are you going to come tell me some cockamamie thing about watch out for Matt Rhule in Arkansas or something? Like,
Nebraska?
Is that with him? Yeah, I'm sorry, Matt Rhule in Nebraska or like this cockamamie thing. Is that with him?
No, that's the Michael Terry thing for sure. I think McCutcheon, I do think that Nebraska, golly, was it Nebraska and SMU? I think the SMU thing was one that McCutcheon. Why am I thinking
there was Nebraska and McCutcheon? Was that somebody? Was that Michael Terry that you said that you were worried about?
Michael Terry, Nebraska. Yeah, that's the 50-50 is with Nebraska. So the places that McCutcheon took his officials were SMU, Ohio State, USC, Texas, and Florida State. Then he committed to Florida State a couple weeks later. I believe, if I remember right. So McCutcheon was in town this last weekend. He was debating going to the SMU game. SMU played Florida State. Of course, that's where he's currently committed. And then I believe Nebraska was also like I could go back and look. It'd take me 2 minutes. But Jason's post last week talked about McCutcheon. I believe it was SMU, Texas, and I think it was Nebraska as well. I think.
Breaking news: Matt Rhule takes over at Arkansas.
I mean, let's be honest with you. He would turn that thing around.
Well, it's
already halfway around, but
clearly I meant to say Nebraska. but please,
same thing, right? I'm just kidding.
Don't ever stop giving me trouble in the chat, man.
Speaking of Nebraska, though,
just a quick thing, about Nebraska. Can I just ask you one quick thing about it? What jobs would Matt Rhule leave for? Do you think he had to promise them, like, dude, like this is where I'm going to come, and this is where I'm going to come, and I'm going to stay here. I want to make this my home base. And so it feels like a coach that's kind of coming off, bruised and battered out of the NFL and stuff like that. It would seem like he would have to make those kinds of promises. And do you see Nebraska as a place where he's like settled down? And because I think coaches also, at some point you get to a spot where you're like, all right, I want to stay here as long as I possibly can, and there's not going to be another, another grab on the old monkey bars to try and up my situation. Do you what do you think he would leave that job for?
Do you consider Nebraska a blue blood?
I I I know some people do. I typically don't, but I could be wrong about that. I didn't. I'm not like a dyed in the wool college football fan. I'm a dyed in the wool NFL fan, right? I don't. I only like I've talked about it a million times. My whole family went to Rice, dude. Do you know how miserable it is, like rooting for college football whenever your granddad and your dad are always wanting to watch the Rice Owls? It's miserable, dude. I didn't want to watch anything besides NFL. So I so growing up, I didn't really grow up thinking about like, oh, who's a blue blood or Nebraska back in their heyday and stuff. So I would honestly defer to like the chat. I don't know if like, or you. I mean, do you think that they're a blue blood? Like I'm curious. Is that a destination for Matt Rhule? He's obviously recruiting well. If you think that it's like a legit toss up for a Michael Terry, and we can have the conversation. It's like if you get McCutcheon, do you even like does the Terry stuff even matter anymore? But but
I think Rhule, to answer that first question, having like on the surface of my brain, not even remembering or knowing where Rhule's actually from, don't really care.
I think he's
Or what
from
his
the
alma mater is.
Northeast.
I think he's from up there somewhere, but I'm not even going to attempt to guess. I don't know offhand. But when I think of like blue blood situations, when you're talking about this current era of college football with NIL, with revenue sharing, with supporters, again, you're talking about a situation that's similar to Texas, but Texas is, large and has NFL teams across it. Granted, not in across with a T, by the way, not in Austin, but like in Houston and Dallas. Nebraska, and me being from the Midwest and going to school in North Dakota and understanding like the culture of states with not professional sports, Nebraska views that whole situation like it's the pinnacle. And when I think of blue bloods, I think of, Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State, Texas, USC, Alabama now because of, Saban being able to bring that thing back from where it once was way, 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 way back to where it went down. And like they were getting beat by teams to now where Nick Saban has them. And I think Nebraska is also in that conversation because of where they once were and the longevity and the importance of the program and the whole thing. And I'm not sure there's a spot Rhule does leave for, like to move up a spot. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sure there isn't a higher place for him. Like, he's not going from Nebraska to Michigan if the Michigan job opens. He's not going from Nebraska to.
You don't think
he's not taking the Florida job over Nebraska? Hell no. Is he taking
he's from New York City. I just looked it up on
There's
Wikipedia.
Nothing up there he's taking, right? There's nothing in the Northeast that you're not going anywhere up there.
Penn State or something.
He's not going back to I think he's burnt on the NFL thing. I think he realizes his job is the college football space. I think he found that out pretty quickly. Penn State's interesting. You brought that up. I don't know. It feels pretty lateral. It feels, even a bit backwards from Nebraska, to be honest with you, from a support standpoint. I understand Penn State's, what Penn State is, but I'm not sure there is a higher spot. So I don't think so. Talking about Michael Terry and Dalen McCutcheon, I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. Like we talk about Dalen McCutcheon. This is why I wanted to talk about this today, was because I do believe the McCutcheon fits perfectly with these other two receivers in French and Lockett. Well, also, we talked about the box score from Michael Terry last week, right? Michael Terry, for all intents and purposes, is kind of like a 50-50 right now, I would say, when it comes to Nebraska and Texas. And when you look at what Michael Terry did in the box score, like he's attempted multiple passes per game. He's run the football more than he's received the football. He can do everything. He's an athlete. He's ranked as an athlete. He's, 6'3", 210, 215 pounds. Right before we went on air, I go like, it's the topic I wanted to kind of also weave into this is, again, they're not mutually exclusive. I think you could be talking about Michael Terry, again, wild comp here, wild even thought, but like, who's to say the guy doesn't come in and be a 230-pound tight end as a freshman, continue to build this tight end room. Gunnar Helm. Who knows what happens next year with Jordan Washington? Potentially Michael Terry plays as who knows, right? If he played as a freshman or something, if he did commit. Michael Terry playing running back, like we're seeing Niblett cross positionally right now. The guy's 6'3", 215 pounds. I mean, who was the last guy that was 6'3", 230 pounds? Oh, that's right. It was Derrick Henry, right? How about wide receiver? That was DK Metcalf, right? Like there's guys that size that can play. They're just athletes, and that's what Michael Terry is. So I don't think that the Terry commitment or the Terry offer / commitment / plan has anything to do with, oh, well, if we don't get Terry, let's get McCutcheon. Like they're not even the same. There you go. There you go. That's a comp, baby. That is a comp right there. That is a comp.
Oh, I mean, not quite as 6'4", 205. You started talking about Derrick Henry, and I'm like, who's the Derrick Henry of wide receivers? Like
Cordero.
Yeah, and obviously it's the kind of player who. So are you saying that you don't think it needs to be that? I think that the coaching staff, if they were to land McCutcheon, for one, I would say that is incredible.
Yep.
I would say what a trio. And I think you had the same thoughts earlier, right? You said like, okay, if DK Moore, whatever. It's a loss is a loss. No, I mean no, but it's like you're not going to get him. It's not any fun. He's great. But I think the chat would know, dude. I think they would just coming in, say we're doing this show back in March, and we say Texas comes out of this thing in the national signing day with Khalil Lockett, Jamie French, and Dalen McCutcheon. Do you want to take that, or do you want to take the mystery behind door number 2 that could or could not involve DK Moore? I think you'd be a fool not to just take the bird in hand.
Yeah. And then the idea that could have potentially just been only DK Moore, right? You don't know if that deters anybody at the time. Like if you get DK Moore to hypothetically commit in July, do those other 2 guys go, well, I don't want to compete with, I don't want to compete with that. Or maybe French and Lockett, we heard the thought that these guys were going to play together or want to play together. What if one of them goes, let's go to Bama? And then the other one goes, sure, let's go to Bama. Right. And then all of a sudden it's literally you maybe with just DK Moore, and then you have to like play defense, and Oregon still competing for him and things of that nature.
Oscar Elizondo, thank you for the super chat, $4.99. He says, Rice, your family had you rooting for food as a child. I'm so sorry, Alex. Yeah, it's true. It's true, man. But dude, it's just what it's like. All right, it's like my dad's best friend that was my godfather, my uncle, my grandfather, my great uncle, and those guys went there, and those dudes went there and went on to my great uncle went on to be like a Rhodes Scholar, all this stuff. My grandpa graduated from there at age 21 with a PhD in nuclear physics. They got a library named after. Like they're big alumni down there, man. So it's like it is what it is, man. I had to watch Rice football. It was very, very bad.
Hey, Alex, question regarding Rice. If you coming out of high school, I don't know what your situation was. I know you played guard. I know you played offensive line. No,
that isn't correct. I was a 3-4 defensive end.
I thought you said played guard. You only played defense?
Oh, I mean, I only started on defense. You know how it is in high school. I mean, you practice at a couple positions, but like I didn't play in a game.
Okay, so change your position. So you played end. You get a full ride scholarship to Rice, or you get a walk-on offer to Texas. Where are you going?
I didn't get
hypothetical.
I'd probably go to Rice.
Okay.
I would have done the family thing. Like that's what I'd have done. But I didn't have the grades. I didn't have the grades to even make the football team at Rice. I had bad grades in high school.
Well, you don't have to out yourself. I was just giving you hypothetical. I was just seeing if you were going to stick to your family or if you're going to write your own path.
Yeah, I tried, man. The only schools that offered me were little, little tiny, little pukey schools, man. I would have, I would have loved if Rice called up and said I could come play. Yeah. So, hey, do you want to tell the dude? So the chat keeps asking. They're asking if you're rocking a fade. They're asking if you're at one of your sugar daddy's houses. Like, why don't you? We always come in and we want to enter right with content, right? But now that we've been talked about some stuff, we can go off record here a little bit. Like, tell them where you're at. Like, what are you up to this week?
I don't know if it has to be off record or not, because that'd be kind of weird.
Or off
But
topic, you know what I mean? Off topic.
I'm in Cali right now. So the reason I missed the show yesterday was I was taking a miserable 5-hour flight across the country from coast to coast to come out to LA. My wife doesn't get very many vacations, so we came out here, hung out with some friends that also they actually the ones that live in Austin. And so we're here for 4 or 5 days and relaxing and beach time, and went to the Comedy Store last night.
See anybody funny?
Trevor Wallace was there. The midget, the not the midget, the sidekick guy in King of Queens. What's the shorter guy's name? I can't remember his name. He was there.
I don't know what
Margaret Cho. I'm so bad with names. Jared,
was it
Jeff
a good
Jarrett?
time though? I mean, pretty
Oh
funny.
yeah. It was like a 3-hour show. We went and had a good dinner beforehand, had some Italian food, and then we went to this went to the Comedy Store for like 3 hours. We got out at like midnight last night. Had like an hour ride back home, and your boy fell asleep in the Uber. And but I mean, it was technically 3:00 in the morning East Coast time when we got out. But yeah, had a great night. So anyway, I'm on the West Coast this week, and going to be doing the show from here, and then we'll get back and. It'll be Oklahoma week, and then it'll be Georgia week. And before you know it, it'll be Friday, October 18th, and we'll be live from Texas Beef Traders, eating some meat, having some beers, and hanging out with the fine people that are in our chat right now.
Is that technically the ocean behind you? I can't really tell. It's hard to tell.
Technically, so this side, that's a hot tub right here. This is a hot tub. And then this side, this is a glass. So if I raise this, the sun beams in so hard. So I figured I'd drop the black curtain down. But there's a glass panel, right? Glass wall only. And then over the glass wall is your 80-foot drop right into the ocean.
Oh gosh. Well, don't get too hammered and walk too close to that. Golly.
It's kind of like your background, but imagine instead of having like that
rich.
Imagine having that slope, and then just imagine it going and no slope. It's just straight drop.
Yeah, your parents' friends are very, 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 very rich. Good to love to see it. And you mentioned Texas Beef Traders, and of course we got to talk about them. Texas Beef Traders. I hope you've been to Texas Beef Traders. I hope you come to join us for the Friday before the UGA game. We're gonna be live there at Texas Beef Traders. We're gonna give you bunch of free food. Gonna give you a bunch of free beer if you want it, or just whatever you want to drink. You can scan that QR code that Cody just put up right there and let us know that you're coming. That way we know how much food to not me, but Darren and Shay and the crew up there. Shay was on. He was featured on the. Who did SMU play last week?
Florida State.
Was it Florida State? Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, Florida State. He was featured doing all the catering for the ACC network crew. And dude, Shay can cook, dude. So you guys want to come up there, eat some steaks, eat some sliders. Cody's had his food. It's really, really good. It's all free. And we're going to be recording the show live. Come hang out with us. We'll hang out before the show, hang out after the show. We got some shuffleboard and some games like that out there. So come check it out. Football with Friends live at Texas Beef Traders, and just go to Texas Beef Traders and get some beef. You get 10% off. It's right there in the heart of Lakeway. And if you can't make it into Lakeway, just call them up. Darren will just bring it to your house. He's like, they're these kinds of dudes. Texas Beef Traders, TexasBeefTraders.com.
Bought my ticket today. Official as a whistle.
What are you coming in Friday?
Yeah, coming in Friday.
And then are you gonna stay to watch the game Saturday?
No, I'm gonna. I thought about staying until Sunday. The Sunday flights are double to get out, and I thought, gee whiz, the Austin airport's not the easiest to get through TSA. So I'm gonna go out actually on Saturday morning, kind of do the quick thing, and just not deal with the F1 and the UGA traffic going out of town on Sunday.
Yeah. Oh
I'm
gosh,
not. Yeah,
that's a
I was
good
like that.
call.
That went through my
Got
mind,
that
and I was like,
one.
yeah, as bad as I want to stay and watch the game with Alex, I'm not dealing with that. I have the
Yeah.
opposite of patience. So
Hey, did you catch your SEC rankings update? Do you want to
I
talk about
did.
that?
I did. We
Do you
can
want to
talk
talk
about that.
about it? I mean, we need to talk about the deep dig, and I want to talk about your behind enemy lines and stuff. But then I also wanted to, if Texas gets McCutcheon, they stay after Terry. That's what you say. Just as
Correct.
hard.
I don't see why they would. I mean, I would understand if people thought, but again, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Or I do think they
So
are. Sorry.
this week, Texas, as far as the football team, what's up with them? So they practice their yesterday. Yesterday light practice. They introduced OU. They're a day behind the regular schedule, right? So today would have been like a Tuesday practice, but a little bit lighter, more mental intensity than anything. They're going to have on Thursday they're going to have their usual Friday-ish practice, situational, all the rest of it. And then on Friday, they're just going to lift, and then he's going to let them go home for the whole weekend. He says he's going to encourage them all to watch football, though. He says that's something that he does all the time whenever they get free. Whenever they get free time, he tells them make sure and watch these football games. So I thought that was a neat deal. But they're going to get out recruiting this weekend. And it's just going to be real interesting to watch and see where they go because he says they're being super duper duper tactical and focused with this weekend with certain areas and certain hot spots. Between this one and the one in November, they have a very specific plan. So I think next week, something we can look into, Cody, is where they win and what that means because he said it's a very focused plan. And we should be able to kind of pull some strings out of that and figure out what it is that they could be thinking here down the home stretch, especially for the remaining 2025 stuff. But obviously, do you think if you had to put money on it, do you think the next commitment is going to be a 2025 or a 2026?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, I kind of think that the 2026s are going to come with a little bit greater
Force.
frequency.
Yeah.
What
Little more force,
right
a little
now?
quicker. Yeah.
Right now, because I think that so many of these 2025 guys are probably still, like the guys who are in play are kind of dudes like, like you got to flip them. You got to there's more hoops to jump through and stuff. Whereas some of these 2026 guys could just kind of want to jump on board. So if I had to guess, I bet they get a 2026 commit before the next 2025. But
I would love for that to be Osborne. I'll tell you that right now.
dude. He's one of these dudes with the traits. I'm telling you, I'm not sure it's I don't know if it's Javion Osborne, no matter what, but I felt that way after watching the film, man. It's like that's a huddle reel where you say, man, you really, really, really want that guy.
If you could say all of the healthy backs right now, well, you know what? Screw it. Every back on the roster right now, if they're all healthy, add in Javion Osborne through he gets a spring, and he gets a fall camp.
I think he's ready. I mean, I think he would be ready.
I think he'd be competing for touches with a healthy Baxter, with a healthy Blue, with all this stuff. I think he'd be competing for touches.
I mean, I have zero doubt. I mean, I always have to see these guys live on a college football field, right? Before I say it's a total lock. But dude, it's one of these things. We talked about it yesterday, or I talked about it yesterday. We talked, with the chat, whatever. We talked, and whenever you just talk about the special traits, it was so funny yesterday, Cody. I was just like, I laughed out loud during the press conference whenever Roger Wallace asked. He's like, Coach Sark, can you talk about Colin Simmons' get off? And is that something that you can coach? And whenever you watched his high school film, was that anything that you noticed whenever you watched that? And I just said, is that anything you noticed? It's the only thing you saw. It's like all you needed to see. It was obscene. It was like showing somebody. Uh, I just showing somebody like like some. I don't want to say it because it's a family friendly show. Showing somebody some like naughty video and asking if you saw anything naughty going on in it. You know what I mean? It's like it. It's like that. That's what the video is. That's what it is. It's showing Colin Simmons' get off. So with Javion Osborne, it's the lateral agility, and it's the ability, and just this just you watch it and you laugh as far as the just the initial acceleration, first or third level, and you're just like, hold on, what? What did he just do? So yeah, like that guy's going to be in for the Georgia game. I would love to. I would love it if Texas could make something happen there. But what about the SEC rankings? Or was there anything else you wanted to talk about with Terry and stuff?
No, that's good. Let's talk about the SEC rankings. I put mine in on, let's see here, Sunday night. I sent mine in. I didn't make very many moves. I moved in total. I didn't move anybody more than one spot.
Whoa, really? So,
Nope.
dude, so you're saying that I just had a mass overreaction? I blew mine up.
Well, I mean, I told you the week before you were wrong, in a couple of spots.
No, I wasn't. I moved Alabama ahead of Georgia, which stayed the case.
So what? But like I told you, the Kentucky thing was wrong.
I was wrong on Kentucky.
Yeah, that was probably your biggest jumper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have to have Kentucky. I mean, don't you have to have Kentucky over Ole Miss?
No.
Why not? They beat them.
They don't beat them 8 times out of 10.
But they beat them.
I don't even think Kentucky beats them. I don't even think Kentucky beats them 4 times out of 10. They might beat them. They might beat them 3 times out of 10.
But they now I'm sticking up for Kentucky.
Okay, so you have South Carolina ahead of Kentucky, right?
Okay. I don't have South Carolina ahead of Kentucky.
Exactly.
But doesn't South Carolina have one more loss than Kentucky has?
To LSU.
Who I have ahead of both of them. Here's how I have it. I have Alabama because I had to jump Alabama over Texas because I feel like if they're both undefeated and Alabama has the better win, Georgia's the better win than Michigan, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then Alabama, Texas, Tennessee. Is this how you have it too?
I have Texas, Alabama, Tennessee.
And so why didn't you move Alabama over Texas?
Because I don't believe in that.
Don't believe in.
I think Texas has a better team overall. And I don't believe that if Alabama blew that game because of Ryan Williams being disgusting. We don't know if that play doesn't happen, we don't know what happens. All I'm just saying is they were up big and they blew that game. And we're all reacting as if this makes Alabama the best team in America. Yes. Do I believe Jalen Milroe is going to be in New York at the end of the year? 1,000% do I believe that. I think I tweeted it at the end of last year that he should be sitting next to Jaden Daniels last year because he's going to win it this year. I do believe Milroe may be the best player in America. I do believe Texas has the best roster in America. Because Texas beat the hell out of Mississippi State and it didn't.
You think Texas has a better roster than Ohio State just on paper? If you look up and down Ohio State's roster, it's pretty.
Top tier talent, no. Depth, yes. Texas has the best depth in America.
Okay. I mean, I'm not gonna argue. I don't know the Ohio State depth chart by heart.
I think overall talent, like when you go, if you're grading these guys 99, 99, 99, 99, I think Ohio State has more top end talent, but I think as far as overall depth, I think Texas is a better roster.
All right, that's fair. I don't,
like I said, the whole point I'm making here is that I don't believe Alabama blowing that game at home, and Ryan Williams saving it at the end because Milroe was special and because Ryan Williams is a unexplainable alien. And I understand that. Oh, they won. A win's a win. 100%. I understand that, but they showed a major flaw. And I understand you play second halves different when you're up 28 points. You play prevent. I understand all of that, but you're at home. You don't blow that game, and they blew it. They let it happen, and they salvaged it at the end with an interception. An interception that happened in the red zone at the end of the game, again, after the Ryan Williams thing, right? They showed cracks in the defense, in my opinion. Womack is awesome, but they just showed cracks, and I do think I would still lean Sarkisian in that matchup against that defense.
I'm not necessarily like, what are these rankings anyway? Nobody ever explained to me what I'm even ranking here. I kind of catch it just like send in your rankings. I just kind of figured it's like, all right, well, this team beat this team. That's like I could put them ahead. Like, what are these rankings? What are we even doing?
Best team.
Okay. Well,
it's like if I ask you the best player on the Texas roster, right? I'm not asking you who's the leader of the team. I'm asking you who the best player is. I'm not asking you who is the most veteran, who's got the most wins. I'm asking who the best player is on the team. Best talent on the team. It's Arch Manning. It's Colin Simmons. It's not Quinn Ewers. Come on, we're being honest with ourselves here. We're ranking for what it is. We're not ranking
what about Banks?
Banks is up there. I think he's ahead of Quinn.
You wouldn't have Banks ahead of Colin? You wouldn't have Banks ahead of Simmons?
No.
After only 5 games of Simmons?
No.
Oh gosh, that's a take.
What did I tweeted it back because the Orange Bloods Twitter account tweeted this and they were like, rank, what the hell did they say? They said rank the 5 best players, something like this. Rank the 5 best players on the roster. And I said, Arch Manning, again, 5 best players on the team, right? This is what I'm saying. 5 best teams in the SEC. That's how I'm ranking this thing, right? So 5 best players on the team. Arch Manning, Colin Simmons, Kelvin Banks, Anthony Hill, Quinn Ewers.
Say that again. I was reading Richard Arias's chat here. He's saying that the best player is Colin, Quinn, Banks, Broughton, Arch. Well, Broughton's not one of the best players on the team.
Oh my gosh.
But I was making sure I was reading it right.
You didn't. I don't think Vernon Broughton. I think you misread that. I said Arch.
Like, whoa, that's a fire breathing take, man. That'll burn off the old eyebrows to put Vernon Broughton on your list. What was your list?
5 best players on the Texas team.
Yeah.
Arch, Simmons, Banks, Hill, Ewers.
I mean, I think you're right that it's those. I think you've nailed who the top 5 are. Not sure what order I'd put it in. It's the same thing. What are we judging? Who's going to end up being the best? Who's the best right now? Who's the best after this week?
It's a completely what I view, what I see on the field, when I turn the game on, I go, him. Who do I want first? I want him first. Who do I think is the best? Him. Who's next best?
So it doesn't matter. So there's not a rule. So
this isn't who is the best. It's not like a who's got the best sack dance, right? No, it's who's the best team. Who's the best football team on your eyes when you turn the screen on? Who's the best football team? So that's why you can say, you would still take this team over this team, even though this team beat them. Like I said, Kentucky, I'd still take Ole Miss over Kentucky because Kentucky can't beat them. I don't think Kentucky would win 3 matchups out of 10. If you round this thing up in a 7-game series, I think Ole Miss wins 7 of them. Maybe 8.
Look, man, it's just, but they've look. We've been over and over and over about the UGA stuff, right? We've been over and over that's always you've said that's always the Kentucky or Stoops or whatever, just always against Georgia, he plays up to him and stuff. But I just got to think, I'm just like, well, they just beat Ole Miss and they could, they held Georgia to 13 points and only lost by a point. And I'm like, I got to have them over Ole Miss if they just beat them. But it's okay. Here's how I have mine ranked, and you just tell me how much differently it is from yours. Okay. All right. So I have Alabama, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia, Missouri, LSU, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, South Carolina, Arkansas, Auburn, Florida, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State.
So our top 4 are, like I said, yours is Alabama, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia. Mine's Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia. The last 5, Arkansas, Auburn. You have Florida, Vandy, Mississippi. I have Arkansas, Auburn, Vandy, Florida, Mississippi State. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's the middle. The middle is where we differ a little bit. I still have Ole Miss at 5. I still think Ole Miss is ahead of LSU. LSU found a run game, but I still don't see a complimentary football from LSU. They beat South Alabama 42-10. Cool, nice job. Congratulations. Move on. We'll see what happens next. I'm not ready to put them ahead of Ole Miss. I don't think that team is as good as Ole Miss. I haven't seen enough from LSU to do that. Missouri, have not seen enough from them. They've been underwhelming the last couple of weeks, I've found. Burden hasn't.
I just had them up there because they're still undefeated.
Yeah, it's process of elimination. I understand that. Like moving Missouri, I 100% understand moving Missouri up, but I'm just saying eye test. I still believe Ole Miss and LSU are better than Missouri. Missouri, like I told you, I like South Carolina. I like Kentucky. I'd still put Missouri over both of those teams, 100%. South Carolina's got a sick defense. Kentucky's got a sick defense. So I got those guys 8 and 9. And then I got Oklahoma. And then A&M, similar to you. And then Arkansas, Auburn, Vandy, Florida, Mississippi State. So I think the place we differ mostly is that 5 to 9 area, which I have Ole Miss, LSU, Missouri, South Carolina, Kentucky.
You have Christopher Summers here. That I feel like he's got a pretty good understanding of what you were talking about. He says
Bingo.
He says your rankings are bad. Quinn's the most important player on the team, and Arch isn't on the list.
Bingo. That's the point. It means the best player on the team is Arch, but the most important player on the team is Quinn. It's 2 different things. It's like asking this question like of this ranking. It's like, well, who's the best team? Well, who's the most deserving team, right? Like if you're like last year, you're talking about playoffs. Well, who's the best team? The best, not the best, but who's the better team between Florida State and Georgia? Who's the team that most deserves it? Well, Florida State deserves it, but Georgia's the better team, or Alabama, whatever the hell it was.
That's a good point. So this list shouldn't be about most deserve, because here Kentucky deserves to be ahead of Ole Miss.
Correct.
But it doesn't mean you should put them ahead of Ole Miss just because they deserve. You don't always get what you deserve in this world.
Bingo.
Okay.
Don't always get what you want.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, it's fair enough. All right. Well, that's where I had them. Do you want to talk about the defensive? I never even got into the rankings yesterday for the deep dig. I don't know if you want to talk about that. Do you want to talk about your behind enemy line stuff? So those are that's the week by week snaps per disruption stuff. Do we? I can pull it up if we need to. Just the rankings, the product. Yeah, that's the historical production. I showed that yesterday. What I didn't show was just the rankings with the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, I'll pull that up. 1 sec.
Okay. Yeah, is that it?
No, you just banter for a second. I'll pull it up.
Okay. The thing with we talked about how Colin Simmons, how he was tops in that one chart that we just saw with the 3.41 snaps per production caused, out of the 178 players that I've done this with that have played at least 200 snaps dating back to 2015 at Texas, as far as his per snap efficiency, it's by far the best. It's like he's getting production 2 snaps more often than even Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat and Anthony Hill were last year. And I said it yesterday, but I said after week 2 that Colin Simmons won't be able to keep this up because he's going to start getting more snaps. And when he gets more snaps, his per snap efficiency is not going to stay the same. So he's going to be coming down this list a little bit, right? Well, what's happened is he's getting more snaps, but he's done what I would have told you in week 2 is impossible. If you'd asked me in week 5, can he stay at this same number? I'd have said, nope, it's an impossibility. Just like the same way you'd ask me right now, can he stay at this same number all year? I would look you in the eye and I would say, there's no way. It's an impossibility. It's not going to, I'm still telling you, it's not going to happen. But the fact is, I would have told you it's impossible after week 2 that we would be talking about this after week 5, and he's done it. And so what's happened as 2 things have occurred. One, his per snap efficiency has stayed at that elite level, every 4 snaps. He's generating some kind of production, whether that's a run stuff, whether that's a sack, whether it's a pressure, quarterback hit, a tackle, an assist, right? An interception, a batted pass, whatever. But you look and you see what's happened. His snaps have gone up. And when his snaps have gone up, Colin played 55% of snaps last week, by far the most of the season. And he kept the same efficiency. And when that happens, he moves up. And now with the sheet that Cody you just had up just one second ago, you see that the 121 snaps that he's at right now, he's not just the most efficient player on the team. He's the most productive player on the team. But he's in a real close tier with Colin Simmons, Jahdae Barron, and Anthony Hill. Jahdae Barron could be tied with him if he just had one. Well, he would need technically like one assisted tackle. That would get him half a point in the system to basically be tied with Colin Simmons. So Jahdae Barron and Simmons are close, but Simmons has played half the snaps.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing for me.
It's just
he doesn't have to play the snaps that Jahdae's playing. He's a rotational. The defensive end position is a rotational spot that keeps these guys fresh, keeps them attacking. The guy's youthful, and Barron's going to be out there twice as much. And you can, the points to tell you right there, the production 35.5 to 34.95. It's wild to even just look at that and be like,
it's insane. I've never seen anything like it. It's insane. But man, I just want to pull this thing back up. I'm so ADD. Christopher Summers says Arch doesn't even make his top 5. But see, I think you and Cody I know you and Cody are talking about different things. He's talking about the best players on the team. And Christopher Summers, if you don't have Arch in your top 5 of best players on the team, I would reevaluate I'd reevaluate that. I mean, he's going to be probably the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. If not, this next season, the season after it. Like, he's one of the best players. I think you're saying the most important players. You can argue he's not top 5 for sure, but just best players. Arch is top 5. He's top like 2. He's probably top 1. Arch he's really good. But so I thought one interesting thing, Cody, was how Vernon Broughton moved up 8 spots.
He was, I don't know about you, but this is my, quick thoughts from the game. And I know I was texting you during it. And I know you were doing the radio show for Roster Watch on SiriusXM during the game. But my instant thoughts, and I even got some kickback from it on my column from Monday. And I know in Catches 10 Thoughts from the Weekend, he was like, not really worried about the run defense and stuff like this. But I understand that perspective that he kind of laid out. But for me, it came down to what I physically saw from Alfred Collins, from Lole, from Norton, in comparison to what I saw from Vernon Broughton. Vernon Broughton looked good, held his own, looked like he was ready to play football. Those other 3 weren't ready to play. Like, I don't know. I was, again, just not impressed with Alfred Collins, and the other 2 just were kind of like there. They were just bodies, it seemed like, playing football. And that worries me when that's a not that it's a get up game, but it's like, it's the way I viewed this season is obviously you had the Colorado State game, Michigan, boom. And then it was kind of like, Mississippi State, bye week, Oklahoma, Georgia. It's incrementally gotten better and better each week. And like an SEC game at home, the home opener SEC, not a get up game, but it's a game that you definitely don't take lightly. And it felt like they maybe just weren't ready for it. I don't know. I was, again, just not impressed with that. And I'm not saying that these guys can't be good against Oklahoma, can't be good against Georgia, can't be good against these other teams, but it's just worrisome when you give up 115 yards rushing in the first half when you expose like, okay, what's the strategy to beat Texas? The strategy is to control the time of possession, which they did. It was like, I don't know, something like 19-7 at one point or something like this, right?
What's what happens when you start out with the I mean, Texas got the ball for the first time with what, 7 minutes and 45 seconds left in the first quarter.
Alex, how do you stop a potent offense? Keep them off the field. How'd you beat Tom Brady? Kept them off the field. Like, that's how you do it. And so when a Mississippi State can show this is how you do it, what do you think that tells a Kirby? What do you think that tells a DeBoer? What do you think that tells a, even an incompetent team like Florida that has a good running back and, a good, big offensive line? Run the ball, control the line of scrimmage, time of possession, make it a 1-score game late in the game, a 2-score game, make it attainable to a fumble, a kick return, a mistake. You can't have that. And that's what the defense exposed to me. And that's what I was really worried throughout the game. And people are like, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Well, the only reason I'm not worried is because of Vernon Broughton. Vernon Broughton played excellent. The rest of these guys, I'm very worried about the rest of the defensive tackles.
Here's the thing with Broughton. On a down-to-down basis, do you know what he gives you just as far as just a presence against the run? Do you know what he gives you? He gives you something that you'd like a little bit more out of, right? Not something where you say that was bad, but something where you just say, "Man, I'd like a little more out of you," right? On a down-to-down basis. With the way that the linebackers played in this game, I think Anthony Hill would be the first to tell you that he's tilted about the way he played. He missed 4 tackles. That's very un Anthony Hill like. You know what I mean? It just is. David Benda was doing the stuff like he did against who was that little runner? Was that UTSA that spit out against him on? Yeah. It was one of those things. And Benda Benda did that like 5 times in this game. It was very, very obvious. Collins is just too inconsistent. He moved up because he made a couple of nice plays and he has some run stuffs in this game. But dude, there's too much where he gives up his pad level. He stands up. He has an off switch. He has an off switch. It's just at this point, I just think it is what it is. I'm not sure it's going to change with him. I think he's kind of got to roll with AC, and that's just who he is, man. It's like we've been waiting on a change, like light switch to come on. I'm just like, I think that the light switch just comes on at times, and then like I think that's just what it is. So when you have Broughton, when he's not making strip sacks or he's not getting these good run stuffs or helping with getting in on a TFL, stuff like that, you have him at least giving you a baseline level where you're like, you can squint and say, all right, that's fine, right? If we have the linebackers playing well, right? And you look at Collins and you can squint at him. You can say, well, he's pretty inconsistent, but when he pops, he really pops. But we got these edge dudes that are, that are bringing hell, and we got this back end that's pretty good. Right. Really good. Some of your stats, man, about the defensive backfield are like in your column, like they're good this year. Right. We have nickels like Jade Barron who can come into the box and tackle. We have Michael Taff, who this week missed 2 tackles. He hasn't been missing tackles this year. He's the one that talks about how important it is to the culture to not miss tackles on the back end. So when I think about the run game, I don't look at the fact that Jermaine Lole, who, by the way, dude, Jermaine Lole had his most productive game. He had a quarterback hit and a TFL in this game. But, dude, he plays small at times, man. I don't know I'm not sure what it is about that guy to where you can have his body and be so low to the ground and be built so dense and stuff like that to be able to kind of like sometimes he can play small, dude. He doesn't have as anywhere near the anchor that you would think, especially with how dense he is through his lower base. You mentioned it about Norton. At least he's a little bit hard to move. The thing about him is he's just so stiff and he has such bad pad level. And so I can understand how you could look at the group in general and if you're just eyeballing them and just say like, man, I saw some bad plays from these dudes. I can get how you could be worried about the run defense as far as the interior, but I just think it takes a culmination of events for it to be something like it was to start that game. I think I just think that defense didn't really have their head on straight to start it.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of sloppy to start, and they kind of never, there's just sloppy stuff throughout the whole game. Too many missed tackles, too much stuff where they weren't bringing their hips through, grabbing, arm tackling. It hadn't been like we've seen this year. I kind of think it's I said yesterday, I opened the show with this. I'm just saying, I think it maybe not terrible to be able to kind of take away lessons from this game without having to take the loss.
100%. 100%. I just, like you referenced the back end. The back end has been dominant. In my column, I had a thing in here. It's a fun fact. Texas has been one of the best pass defenses in America. They've dealt with multiple injuries in that defensive backfield, and like they're third in yards per game allowed in passing defense. 121.6 yards per game allowed, third to Minnesota and Iowa State. And we know how slow they play. Fourth is Tennessee, fifth is Missouri. And they've been very excellent in defensive explosives allowed. They've allowed, what is the number? 9 total explosives of 20 yards or more downfield, which is tied 7th in America, which is a really good number. And then when you look at total plays of 10 yards or more, they're number 1 in America. They're keeping everything pretty much in front of them. 31 plays of 10 or more yards in 5 games, which seems like, well, that's a big number. But it's like, what, 5.5 plays, 5.5 plays a game go for more than 10 yards, which is like
maybe 6.
Sure, but it's the best. It's the best in America right now. So the defense is doing a good job. The one thing though, like I said, is like, I mean, if I'm an opposing coach, and I know this is like one singular play, but one singular audible I would always have in my back pocket is like an RB misdirection right there. If Collins and Bend are stacked, I would just run an RB misdirection every single time. Get Benda's eyes to go one way, close Collins a little bit inside, and just run
that out. Don't put that out in the universe.
I mean, they need to hear it. I hope they probably know this, but it's like I would just run that, and that'd be my audible all game. I go nachos.
Yeah.
And close off Collins. He quits. Benda reads it wrong. Boom, 8 yards. Boom, 8 yards. Every time that they put Benda on top of Collins, boom, 8 yards. I just run that thing. I don't know. But that's one play. It's not like you're going to beat a team on that, but it's definitely a worry. Not saying either guy is bad. They just need to really it's SEC football. It's different.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it definitely hits differently. It just means more. The $5 super chat from SRone45. Thank you, brother. We appreciate it. And thanks to the over 600 people that are in here, man. Thank you guys so much for always coming. We all just very meaningful that you would spend an hour of your night with us here on Football with Friends. So thank you for continuing to come back, and we certainly appreciate y'all. $5 super chat here. Has Texas been holding back on blitzing to use them on OU? I don't know, Cody. Do you think so? I think they've played some teams where
they haven't had to.
Some of these teams, yeah, they haven't had to, and some of these teams have kind of wanted, try to kind of run. Yeah, you know what I mean? Do these offensive quick hitters and stuff like that. And here's the other fact of the matter: they've been getting good pressure just organically. Of course, they're going to be like they're going to have to. Yes, they're going to. But they are going to blitz more versus these teams like Georgia, OU. Of course, like you're going to see more of it because you've basically seen none of it yet.
I think the Hawkins thing against Oklahoma is 100%. Like you're going to see some blitzing, you're going to see some creativity in that game, and then it's going to only, I would say, grow in the Georgia game. One question before we get out of here for you: one of the last plays of the game when Anthony Hill blitzed, I kind of qualified it as a blitz. It was kind of a late blitz, and they scored that touchdown. Did you blame that kind of on Hill, or did you blame it on the D tackle?
I have to go. I have to go. I don't
remember offhand.
It was the touchdown.
Yeah, it was the touchdown. Like was it like 15, 16, 17 yards or something? I can't remember. Might have been shallower than that, but it was like a late blitz, and it was a lane manipulator.
I'll go back and watch it, and I'll answer it.
Might have been
whatever it is. It'll be the deep.
Vernon a gap ended up opening up because the tackle took Hill wide, and Vernon went in, and then it opened up like the B gap, and then it was just a walk-in touchdown.
Oh, yeah. I'd have to look back at how. I mean, I can find the exact play, and we can talk tomorrow about how I graded it out. We can break down the play. All right. Now, Email us, fwfemails@gmail.com. Find Cody on X at Cody Carpentier. I'm at Alex Dunlap NFL. Thanks you guys so much to being here. We certainly appreciate it. Thanks to Poncho Outdoors, man. Go buy some Poncho Outdoors shirts. They're great, great sponsors. Thanks to Texas Beef Traders. Thanks, of course, to Specs. We'll see you guys tomorrow here on Orange Bloods Live. Football with friends. For Cody, I'm Alex. We're done.